Welcome to our weekly roundup of key business developments in Sri Lanka. I'm Nishani Pigera. Let's first take a look at the main stories for this week. IMF urges spending restraint in upcoming budget. Sri Lanka Indonesia PTA set to conclude this year. And $100 million from ADB for power sector. In our top story this week, the IMF in its recent mission to Sri Lanka said that the upcoming budget needs to be underpinned by appropriate revenue measures and continued spending restraint to achieve a primary balance of 2.3% of GDP in 2025. The agency also recommended establishing a properly functioning VAT refund system for exporters in the light of recent announcements to ease import restrictions on vehicles. As elections near, Peter Brewer, IMF Senior Mission Chief for Sri Lanka, said that any proposed measure eroding the fiscal position should be offset by compensating measures of high quality, avoiding corruption. The timing of the third review will be announced after the upcoming presidential elections on the 21st of September. Sri Lanka will permit vehicle imports in stages starting in 2025, as the country would require additional revenue to achieve the IMF targets. President Ranil Wickremesinghe said that reserves are being built up for this purpose to be in a position to allow vehicle imports. Currently, Sri Lanka's foreign reserves stand at around $5.6 billion, just over 3 months' imports. Sri Lanka plans to wrap up negotiations on the proposed Sri Lanka Indonesia preferential trade agreement by year-end. In 2023, bilateral trade with the nation stood at $369 million, a 17% increase from a year earlier. Although bilateral trade is increasing, it currently remains heavily in favor of Indonesia, which is expected to be balanced out through the PTA agreement. This agreement with Indonesia will serve as an initial step towards a more comprehensive FTA agreement. Sri Lanka has currently signed FTAs with Thailand and Singapore and plans such agreements with the ASEAN countries such as Malaysia. Sri Lanka inked a $100 million loan with the ADB for the power sector reforms. This loan is part of a broader program consisting of 3 sub-programs totaling $300 million dedicated to transform the power sector. Under this program, women participation in the power sector is also expected to increase through equitable policies. Much of the loans from the ADB comes as a part of its $2 billion commitment made last year, with around $600 million pledged for this year. On a related note, Sri Lanka has affirmed its commitment to achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2040, much earlier than the previously set 2050. To this extent, measures would include harnessing renewable energy, modernizing agriculture, and addressing water shortages. As of 2023, Sri Lanka has a total installed capacity of 5,041 megawatts, with around 58% coming from renewable sources, while total generation from renewable energy stands at 50%. According to Dilum Amunagama, Minister of Investment Promotion, Sri Lanka has entered into $800 million worth of FDIs from 35 projects focused on tourism, agriculture and energy in the first quarter of 2024, almost nearing the $1 billion target set for the full year. The minister added that with the recently passed Economic Transformation Act, Sri Lanka could even achieve $5 billion in FDIs, but the upcoming presidential elections keep investors wary of the future investment landscape of the country. The port city alone has already approved 20 businesses of strategic importance, while 50 more are ready to be presented for cabinet approval. In our weekly tourism update, during the first 4 days of August, over 26,000 tourists arrived in the country. In the year, over 1.2 million tourists have arrived. Daily arrivals were 6,722 in the month, up from the 6,058 recorded in July. India continues to be the primary source market, followed by the United Kingdom and China. The all-share price index at the Colombo Stock Exchange marginally rose this week. The market remains muted on uncertainty surrounding the presidential elections. The index is now at a 4-month low. Despite this, Dilshan Weerasekara, CSE chairman, has confirmed the largest ever IPO in the history of the CSE, with an additional 5 IPOs towards year-end. At the Treasury bill auction held on Wednesday, yields on all maturities rose from a week earlier. Bids amounting to 270 billion rupees were received, of which 146 billion were accepted. The Sri Lankan rupee was stable against the dollar this week, with the central bank's indicative mid-spot rate ranging around 302 to 303 rupees. And with that, we wind up for this week. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel at the link below for regular updates on economic and business developments in Sri Lanka. Until we see you again next week, thank you for watching. Stay safe.